Hello and welcome back to Marcus and his football. I know it's been a bit of a break since the last live stream / video, but we are back, bringing back the content, fresh and here and now. We're going to be reviewing the Chelsea season, but as well as that, going individually through every single player that Chelsea own. And I'm obviously joined by
Joe again.
none other than Joe.
It's great to be here today, tonight. All I can say is that I'm excited to, review the season and see where the players can either be kept, bench, or sold from this Chelsea season so far. And yeah, so why don't we get started?
Okay, let's get straight into it. We'll start with the goalkeepers. Obviously, as you can see on your screen, Robert Sanchez, who was starting in the majority of the season with Chelsea, but when he got injured, Petrovic took his place. And obviously, there's been a bit of a riff-raff between the two goalkeepers on who we should start, who we should sell, and who's generally good enough to be the number one at Chelsea. So let's obviously start with Robert Sanchez. What do you think? Start with you about Robert Sanchez.
Robert Sanchez, we bought from Brighton over this last summer, and he was starting pretty much every game for Chelsea for like the first, I think he got injured on the 10th of December, and that's what he was out for. And then our backup keeper, Petrovic, started to take over him. And so I would say his performance within those sort of beginning games of the season, they were okay. Sometimes his I would say his distribution can be a bit shaky. His long ball kicks can be also not ideal, I would say, because they sometimes don't reach the player, or they just go out of the pitch, which as a goalkeeper, you should be hitting it straight to the player or within a close distance to the player. So I'd probably say for Sanchez, it's been a bit underwhelming because he's meant to have these sort of maybe at least expectations, because he is at Chelsea. He's meant to have good expectations, but he has cost us sort of leads as well and wins. Especially the game over Arsenal when we were 2-0 in the 80th minute, and man just threw it straight to Declan Rice for some reason. Obviously, that wasn't his intention, but that's what happened. And after that, the first goal, we sort of capitulated, and quickly conceded the second straight after, pretty much. And so I would say Sanchez hasn't been ideal, and Petrovic, we'll go into him in a minute when we do. But overall for Sanchez, I would say it's been very underwhelming, and he needs to start performing to become that number one keeper.
And obviously, ideally, what do you think the club will do? Do you reckon they'll sell, keep, or loan him? And what would you do if you were in charge of the club, obviously?
Okay, so the club, I think they should probably... maybe I think they'll sell him in the summer because maybe they want a better backup keeper. He really hasn't, hit the ground running or anything. He's not made any memorable saves that I can really remember. Really, maybe one or two, but not really. So I'd probably say we sell him. Even if it is at a loss. We didn't get him for too expensive. So I think it's just probably better to get him off the books and get a better keeper. So what was the other bit of the question?
So what do you think the club would do, like if in their perspective, and what would you do personally if you were in charge of the
if I was in charge, I would sell him.
You'd sell him this summer. You'd sell him straight away.
Yeah, he's been very underwhelming.
Okay.
So,
personally, in my opinion, he's only had about 2 games out of his 20 or 30 games he's been good or good enough. So I don't think he's lived up to the price tag we paid. I don't even think the Brighton fans, when he was at Brighton, were convinced he was good enough for them. And that's a proper mid-table club that's been renowned for mid-tableness. To cut the chase and get to the answer, I would probably sell him. That's my analysis of Rob Sanchez so far this season. Moving on. Moving on, we've got Bettinelli, but he hasn't played a single minute, I don't think, this season. So you can't obviously judge a player that hasn't played a single minute.
Yeah, we can't really judge him. I mean, he's obviously there in training and obviously does his training stuff, but I can't really say anything. So maybe loan him, maybe sell him potentially. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we can say.
Okay, the next player has been very, very pivotal to Chelsea for a few months now. Very impressive, especially the first few games he played, which was mid-December. Petrovic, who's bought in the MLS. Out of all leagues, he was hired and purchased from the MLS. So, what do you think of Petrovic so far in the few months you've seen him? And do you think he has longevity at Chelsea?
So Petrovic, took over. I wouldn't say because of the injury that Robert Sanchez had. Because obviously we didn't know Petrovic's potential before that because he hadn't played really any minutes at all. So and he was like an unknown towards the club. Of what his potential could be, what his savings like, what he
Yeah.
can do with his feet, what he can his shot stopping, that sort of abilities for a keeper, his saves, all that sort of thing. And so yeah, he came roughly mid-December, and I would say he has been very, very, very good. He's definitely a very great shot stopper, I would say, as he has, made some, I'd say, decent saves to keep Chelsea within games against difficult opposition as well, and against difficult strikers and that sort of thing. I would say there are times where it's like could he have saved it, could he have not? They are difficult shots, but I guess for any sort of keeper it would be difficult. But yeah, I'd say Petrovic has been, I would say our number one keeper at this rate. He's definitely there over Robert Sanchez now because he's just, keep putting in performance after performance, that justify his number one position, in my opinion. And, for example, a good moment that he had was obviously the Newcastle penalty shootout, where he made that save. And he just seems like he's got the passion for our club and the determination to work in, week out, and really do as best as he can, really. And I just say he's a great keeper. So I would, if I was the Chelsea owners, I would, keep him, obviously, and start him
Right.
for the squad as well, week in, week out. I
Yeah.
think Robert Sanchez becomes our second keeper until the end of the season. We sell Sanchez and we keep Petrovic, and just make sure that Petrovic is our number one and get a proper backup keeper. And yeah, I feel like that's what I would do as well. So I think that's smart. What about you?
What about myself? I think he has longevity at this club. I think I could see him being here at least 6, 7 years. He's a young guy as it is, but I do think he'd be here till at least late 20s, early 30s. He's a great keeper. Very impressed considering I had a low expectation of him when he initially signed for Chelsea. When you're a player and you're being bought from the Major League Soccer, America, you're not really going to have a high expectation of the player because they're playing in a league that's renowned for just going there for the cash, then retiring. You're not buying a player from a European league. Even the Saudi Pro League nowadays has got a better standard than some of the European leagues. So Petrovic, I was very underwhelmed when we signed him because I'd never heard of him, and he's young and he's from MLS. But obviously now that I've seen him play 3 months worth of games, but pretty much every single game for 3 months and sometimes twice a week, I'm very, very impressed, and I would keep him. Would he start number one going into next season and when we've had a summer transfer window? Maybe he has a good chance. I'll give him a good shout for it. All right, let's move on to Axel Disasi, who was bought from Monaco for I believe 30 in the region of 30 million. Who was fighting a relegation only last season. So Axel Disasi, what do you think about him so far? He's played most games as well. So
Yeah, mate. I would say that Disasi, he has been, our sort of right-sided centre back for Chelsea for the last few for this season, and he has been, centered and paired with a lot of different defenders throughout the season, and he has been, put in different positions himself as well. Like, for example, he'll get put at right back as well when we've got players injured or not available, for that sort of thing. But in terms of his performances, I feel like he's had a few shaky performances over the course of the season, because he's just a bit, I would say, raw right now, because it's obviously Premier League is such a fast-paced sort of league, and he struggles to cope against some of the strikers he comes against, or the wingers he comes against, and he has made a few mistakes that do lead to some costly goals. When we definitely need these sort of draws and wins, but because of sometimes his mistakes and us conceding, it does mean we draw or lose those sort of games, which isn't ideal. But then sometimes, Disasi can be a very good right back. It depends which Disasi you sort of get on the day, pretty much, because there's some games where he can be quite poor, and we lose the game like 2-0 or something like that, or I don't know, we lost the game 4-1 against Newcastle, for example, and he wasn't good that game. He was very shaky that sort of game. And but there's also performances, for example, against Man City the other day, and he was just absolutely incredible, and justifies his position in that right centre back sort of role, really. I would say, but yeah, if I was, for myself, I think what we should do with Disasi is that we keep him for next season, because he can be decent. He's a good squad depth player as well when players do get injured, because we're Chelsea Football Club, we're injury FC. So it's great to have him. But yeah, I would say keep him and start him.
And start him. Okay. Even against the better teams, you still start him.
I mean, yeah, because he's got that height as well. He's got that strength. He's got passion for this club. So I would definitely start him.
Okay. My quick analysis and thoughts and feelings towards Disasi has had a lot of shaky moments, but with a young player, it's going to happen a fair bit. Like, he's only human, and he's very young as well. But I do think he's a good player. He does offer only within the central roles at defense, not on the wings or the fullbacks. He's terrible, absolutely shocking fullback wise. So I'd definitely play him right centre back. He's done, I'd say he's been a solid 7 out of 10 this season so far. If I could give him an average, obviously the teams are underwhelming, but we'll come to that later in the video. But him as a person has been a solid 7 for when he's played. And obviously there has been games where he's 2 and 3 out of 10, but mainly 7 out of 10. Moving on, Mark Cucurella, who we've seen a fair bit towards the start of the season, fill out for right back. When we played Fulham away, I believe he was playing right back, because I think every other fullback was either suspended or injured. So he has shown a bit of versatility. So would you quickly analyse Cucurella for the few games he has played?
Yeah.
He's played a few.
So Mark Cucurella, joined not last season but the season before, and he had a very, I would say, disappointing first season at the club. It looked like he struggled a lot against pacey sort of wingers and strikers, and we just kept losing every game, and he was part of that squad. And I would say this season, because right now he is injured, he's on his way back now, recovering. But for the few games he has played this season, when players have been out, he has shown that sort of versatility to be left back or right back. And I thought some of those performances were decent. For example, the game against Manchester City in the first game, I thought, he played very well, marking Erling Haaland. It's definitely a difficult job to do. And you're playing out of position as well. So I feel like this season he has been a lot better, but he has been injured now, and availability is also quite important to a player. So I would say I think we should probably bench him for now, because there are other players, and in the summer transfer window we can get better players. But he is decent, as I say, for like squad depth for a left back, if that makes sense. But I'd probably say potentially bench him for next season, because
You wouldn't loan or sell.
No, I feel like he's a good squad depth player.
Okay, that's what I was getting after. Me, decent enough. He's been when he has filled in his unnatural position of right back, he has been decent. I'd give him a solid 7.5. I would probably put him on the bench for next season. I feel like we can do better.
Yeah.
We'll obviously talk about his other competitor for his position in a bit, but that leads on to who we'd rather keep and sell. But yeah, let's go to Badishile because he's next on the website. Benoit Badishile has been in and out, like he's going to a supermarket, in and out. I haven't seen much consistency from Badishile with his injuries or just his form. What do you think about Badishile?
Yeah. Again, Badashile played for us last season as well. I thought when he did come on last season, he was very, very good, and that's where we kept the scoreline quite low most games. For example, 1 or 2 goals because he was really good. And then coming into this season, he's had a few glimpses here and there, but he's also been quite costly in some of the games. And giving the ball away and leading to goals. I feel like he's not really exceeded his potential, and he's getting injured a couple of times this season, so which is not ideal. It's pretty bad that he keeps getting injured. But as I say, we're injury FC, so what do we expect? But I would say when he does play, he can be decent, he can be poor, but it just depends which Badiashile turns up as well.
So keep.
I would say we should probably keep him as well for squad depth. Yeah.
Okay. I would keep. I'd actually agree with you exactly. I'd keep him for a backup centre back, like what Chalobah is doing since he's come back from injury, to being that backup, but now he's obviously starting like the Leeds game. Yeah, I'd keep Badishile for next season. And what about Thiago, the legend himself?
So yeah, the legend Thiago Silva. He has been an absolute incredible player for us. The fact we got him on a free, just goes to show that wow, what business. And the player he is, he literally bleeds blue for this club. And he just is just an all-around, very good player. He is coming towards the sort of the end of his footballing days. So with that, obviously, I feel like especially this season, I feel like his performances, some of them have been very good, but then some of them, when we play a high line, for example, the 4-1 loss against Liverpool, he got caught out loads and couldn't really defend anything because he's just not fast enough and can't catch up with pacey strikers again. So he is obviously a very good player, and absolutely, just demolishes the footballing world in terms of his success throughout his footballing career. But yeah, I'd say for this season, he's obviously got his competitor, Disasi for that right centre back sort of thing. So if Thiago, I would probably, because it's Thiago's probably this season or next season is probably his last season. So I'd probably say we should start him and use him as much as we can before we can't use him before we can't use him anymore. But yeah, so I'd probably say because Thiago Silva is coming towards the end of his days, I would say we give him maybe a year contract and then maybe after that next season because he will be too old. I'd probably say, and he'd be a squad depth player for next season, but I'd say, for now, sort of thing, we keep him until the end of next season, I would say. But after that, I think we should part ways. He should retire as a legend of this club.
You put it very very well there. You're very balanced and respectable view. I'd say that
Yeah,
was
he's a great player.
great player. The success he's had has been all unbelievable. He literally won most things, then joined Chelsea, and somehow never won the Champions League before he joined Chelsea. Came to Chelsea, won the Champions League, won a few cups here and there. He's done all right. He's had a great career, I'd say, and he's still playing Premiership football at 40. So fair play to him. I would keep him for one more year maximum, and if not, I would rather he retires than just goes to another club and just loses his status in that aspect. But yeah, love Thiago. Think he's been great. If I don't give him a year, I would say retire.
Yeah,
Trevor
and sorry, 1 second. It's just that all the fans just absolutely love him as well, and just he has just been all around just a great player. But yeah, what
And
an
an even
defender
better and an even better person, I think Thiago is than a
he is.
player,
Yeah.
better person. He's a great person.
Okay. Right. Chalobah
Uh,
then.
Trevor Chalobah, who's Cobham, he's come through the Chelsea academy. He's been very unfortunate this season with injuries. Been out up until was it the Aston Villa away? He was the first game on his was he on the bench, or was it the game after that? Well, even though it's around that period of time this season, so only recently Chalobah's come back. He's been out the whole season until this point. I love Chalobah. I think he's actually a good centre back. He's played under Tuchel, some great managers actually as well, like Tuchel for example,
Mhm.
obviously. I like him. What would you say about Trevor Chalobah? What have you seen from him?
Mate, I would say Chalobah, he has some, glimpses of good things, but because there's better centre backs at the time as well, during this sort of time he's been here, he's been sort of, like outshone by other players, if that makes sense. So I feel like he gets benched most games, not because he's an awful player by any means, just because other players just are better than him, if that makes sense. So he gets chosen for the bench. But yeah, he's been riddled with injuries this season, and yeah, I would probably say we should probably sell him at the end of this season because as you say, he is a Cobham. We can make money on him, and I feel like that's the most important thing. And he goes somewhere else on his journey. So yeah, big up Trevor Chalobah for what you've done for the club. But yeah, I think it's time to part ways.
Trev Brazy, he's going to be parting ways. Nah, I love Trevor Chalobah, but realistically, I don't think he has a future at Chelsea, which is really sad to say, but it's just not going to work out for him at Chelsea. Maybe somewhere else in the Premier League or could be in Europe, mainland Europe, but I like Chalobah and I wish him all the best. So I would obviously sell Ben Chilwell, who has obviously won the European Cup, but hasn't been lucky since that European Cup victory with injuries as well. Another player, surprise, surprise, has been injured a lot. What would you do in terms with Chilwell? Because Chilwell has experience, which is lacking in the squad, but he also has European pedigree under his belt. But as well as that, he also has been playing in teams that have done well, like Leicester, for example, and been competing at the top of Premiership football. So I don't know with Chilwell, it's a very weird debate. What would you personally deal with Chilwell?
So for Ben Chilwell, he has, shown, the fact that he does care for this club and the fact he does work for this club, you know, through the success he has at this club. Um, but unfortunately, his career has been absolutely riddled with injuries this season, last season. Just absolutely riddled it. He's out for months, and as I said before, availability is a key aspect to a football player's ability as well. Because you should be available for games, but Chilwell, when he obviously plays, sometimes he can have a bit of a poor performance as well when he does play. Like there are definitely games where he just, he likes to see himself as like a free roaming left back to sort of left winger sort of thing. And sometimes he gets caught out and then he's running back and he can't defend in time, and that's when we sort of concede goals, which isn't ideal. But sort of like I would say when he takes corners, or that sort of thing, or he's got the pace to sort of attack, cross it into the box, sort of thing. I feel like those sort of things are very good from him when he does attack. But yeah, we also need him to be doing his defensive responsibilities as well, which is sort of a bit of a slight letdown with him. So, and obviously he is experienced in the squad. He is the vice captain as well. So I feel like we should keep him on. I'd say for another couple more years. Whilst these younger players are still developing and gaining the experience that they need, because they need an experienced head in there. So yeah, I feel like we should keep Chilwell for a few more years. And yeah, and in terms of like starting him, there is Cucurella as well, our other left back. But it depends if Chilwell's out for a few months, then it will be Cucurella because obviously he's riddled with injuries. But yeah, I would say I think we should, at this rate, when we've got no options, we have to start Chilwell. So yeah,
So you would keep for what maximum or minimum of 2 more years?
I'd probably say we keep him for a maximum of 2 years. After that, I think maybe it should be time for him to go. I don't know. We'll see the situation at the time, whether he's putting in poor performances, whether he's costing us goals and games and points and cups and trophies and all that sort of thing. We'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, what do you think?
Okay, I think with Chilwell, because of the sheer experience he has and the fact that he's won it. He's literally won the biggest European trophy that there is. He's literally done it. He's reached pinnacle of at least European football. I would keep him, but only on a basis where if he can play at least a certain amount of games, he meets like the expectation of his club.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I agree. I agree with that, mate.
and that's what should have been in his contract because we've known for years now he's injury prone. But because there's no
Yeah,
clause in his contract, he'll just carry on living it like nothing really matters. He'll just take the paycheck and that's that. I would keep him one more year and see how next season goes in terms of injuries, consistency, performances, points, everything, the whole shebang. So yeah, that's what my thoughts and feelings on Chilwell. And then obviously next player is the captain of the biggest club in London, Reece James.
yeah,
What do you think about Reece James? Obviously, another player
yeah.
that's won it and
He has
has
won it.
plenty of
He's won the
experience.
Champions League with us.
He's got
He's
experience in
Cobham
this
as
job.
well. Cobham graduates. So he I'd say sort of bleeds blue for the club as well. He is an absolute incredible right back. He has been. When he does play, he is like a monster, and attackers do struggle with him a lot when he does play, and he does put in absolutely excellent performances. Like you've got attackers that come out and say that he is one of the most difficult right backs to come against. That's because of his sheer strength and his tactical performance, ball performance as well, on the ball attributes he's got as well. So I would say, yeah, Reece James, he is our club captain, which means, and he's again more of the experienced side of the players. He's still
Yep.
young himself, but he is the experienced one in this sort of squad. And I would say, which is why you need him. So yeah, Reece James, his career has been riddled with injuries, and you do need availability from these sort of players. So it is important. He has had his surgery, and he is in the recovery process, doing sort of like individual grass work and training by himself. So hopefully, we see him, introduced towards the end of the season or pre-season or the start of the next season. And I do think we keep him for a good few more years because, when he does play, he is just an absolute just monster at, just making these attacking players and for their job a nightmare, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Reece James bleeds blue, proper Chelsea. Great player, great servant to this football club. It's actually a really big shame for his sake because of how much he loves Chelsea that he's got injured this amount of times and how long the injuries have lasted for each time, which has been loads. I'd definitely keep him, but I think I'll treat him the same as Chilwell because you can't be blaming Chelsea and being injured 3/4 of the season every single season, or you're just barely going to offer anything to this football club. You'll offer more to the doctor and the physio instead of offering to the actual club that you are contracted to. So I'd rather see that on the pitch than you talking to your mate from the physio. But yeah, Reece James, keep him a couple more years. Levi
Yeah,
Colwill, obviously you mentioned earlier, Cobham graduate, was on loan a few times. I think he's been at Huddersfield and Bryce and all these like average football clubs. Had little spells down there for I think a season at each cost. He's been okay. Played the cup final the other day against Liverpool, and obviously we lost. What would you say about Colwill going forward with him?
I would say through Colwell's season so far, I would say, he is very young as well. Young player. So obviously, there's inexperiences that come with a young player. He has had, a season in the Premier League before at Brighton. So, he has got that sort of experience in his head, but, obviously he's still young. In terms of his performances, I would say they have been, decent. I would say because, he does play well. He's a left-footed centre back. And he has these good on the ball attributes like passing it well and crossing it into the box sometimes. I mean, because of our manager as well, he plays him out of position most of the time as well when we've had players out to injuries. So he has been playing in a left back role as well. So it has been very difficult for him to adapt to that sort of left back position. Then get put in left centre back, they get put in left back again, then left centre back again. It's like, and then 2 more games left back, and another game left centre back. So it is very difficult for him, for a young player, to be put under that sort of pressure. But I would say, he's definitely a good player for the future for Chelsea, and I feel like he can only really get better. Really, yeah. They got Colwill.
Bill
What do you
Colwell, would you keep, right?
I would keep Colwill for another few more years. He's just absolutely, I would say, got the potential to become an absolute, unit at this club and to become an absolute great centre back.
All right, moving on. I would keep Colwell. I literally agree with everything you said there. I'd keep Colwell at least 3 more years. Okay, what do we guys think, and what do you personally think about Malagusto? Because I put in the little banner. He's been wicked backup right back. Honestly, I didn't expect him to be at the level he has been when Reece James been injured, which has basically been most this season. I thought he's actually overachieved for the amount we paid and the league we bought him from. I definitely think he's been way better than I ever would have thought he would ever become. And obviously, we haven't seen him for more than a season. We can't judge him in like a long term, but in the short period of time he's been here, wicked player. Honestly, wicked. What do you think?
Malo Gusto, my friend. He has been the absolute backup to Reece James this season. He has just been like an absolute, just incredible right back in the absence of Reece James, because it is big boots to fill when you've lost a quality player like Reece James. And he's just got the passion and the desire to be that right back, to even potentially he probably wants to become that first choice right back. That is very difficult, but he to do of his young age as well. But he for sure has been proving it that he does deserve that sort of spot. But yeah, I just think he's just been sort of very attackingly well as well. He crosses it into the box well. He passes it into the box well. He just has that desire to try and create the chances when some of the players sort of lack the creating chances. When Malagusto's running up the pitch and he crosses it in, it's just been incredible. He does keep us in some of these games. He gets us the points where we need it, gets us through these cup competitions to where we are. So, he's definitely, again, we keep him for another few more years, start him, and then obviously it becomes until Reece James gets back, and then we'll see, how we cope with obviously a good headache, I would call it, between Reece James and Malagusto.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what Poch, if Poch is still the manager, what Poch would do in terms of 2 decent players that can easily compete to be starting Prem games, Cup games, and if Chelsea ever make the Europe again, the European games.
Yeah. Also, 1 second is one thing I did leave out has been also his versatility, because he has, because again we have players out. He is adapted from right back to left back at times, and each position he just plays absolutely incredible. Big up Malagusto.
Yeah, big up Malagusto. I would keep him, obviously. I think he's been wicked
Yeah.
for the time he's been here. He's been way better than I initially anticipated. Where's Fofana? A player that I put here. Where's Fofana? Will he ever play for Chelsea ever again? To be honest, we don't even know. There's no expected return date with him, and no one knows what's going on with him. What do you think about Wes?
Yeah, I mean, Wesley Fofana has had a couple of seasons at Chelsea, and he has been injured for a lot of it. He was injured last season for a good amount. He's injured for this season for pretty much all of it. Which isn't ideal. He's not. I doubt he's even going to be over until the rest of the season. It's not like where some of the other players where you have hope for when they do come back some point this season. We don't really know. So it is really gutting when you see a player of Wesley Fofana's capabilities, because when he does play again, he's a really great centre back. But yeah, mate, please get out of that bloody injury room and come onto the pitch, mate. Please.
Me with Wesley Fofana. Well, not literally, obviously. My thoughts on Wesley Fofana. when he did play, I remember he scored a goal in the Champions League. Was it last season against? Was it Milan? He at home, was at the Bridge. He plays well. He's a good player. He reads the game well. He was bought from a decent club that was doing well at the time, Leicester. I think he's a great player. Would I give him another chance if he could find fitness for a long period of time and kept fit? I would keep him, but because he's been injured for basically the whole season, if not longer than the whole season, there's no future here because of how it's panned out for you, which is obviously unlucky and sad for your sake, but it's just it is what it is. Like you can't when you get injured and it's a long term injury, you
Yeah,
can't do anything about it. You can't just
yeah.
heal, just heal.
You can't keep players that just keep missing out seasons and collecting paychecks for literally doing nothing and just trying to rehabilitate themselves, but getting injured again. It's not ideal.
Yeah,
Come on, Big Wes, we need you back in the squad.
facts. All right. Anyways, moving on. A player that's only burst onto the scene for the last 3 to 4 months. He's only played when Chelsea have won, I believe. Still, maybe I might be wrong now, but the games he played, either he's come on or started, he's been unbelievable. Regardless if we won or not, he still played well. He knows how to clear a ball. I mean, that's pretty basic anyway. But he reads the game well. He's smart for his age. I like the look of him. He reminds me of an old-fashioned defender, but I don't know if he has an actual long-term future at Chelsea. What would I do with Alfie Gilchrist or Gilchrist? Have you pronounced his last name? Probably sell him. You?
I would say Alfie Gilchrist. He is a sort of right side centre back / right back sort of player. So obviously there's a lot of competition with the defenders we've got at that right side and centre back, and the right backs that we've got the quality in them. But when Alfie Gilchrist does come on in these sort of games, such as the cup competitions, or when he comes on for the last 10-15 in a Premier League match, I think he's very good depth to have, and he is still very, 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 very young. And the performances he is putting in at this sort of age and this pressurizing league is been very good. And he just loves to boot the ball, especially in the final closing minutes when we are struggling to keep a lead, which is always good to have. Just someone just boots it out. I think he's sort of, the performance against, I think it was Luton he played. He came on for I think 5 minutes, but he was just clearancing the ball again and again and again. But yeah, Alfie Gilchrist, I think we should probably keep the guy because he is a decent player and have him for 3 more years. So I agree with you there.
Next player, we'll hurry up the pace a little bit. Malang Sarr, apparently he's gone missing. Potts didn't even know his name at the start of the season.
Sorry, mate. Who is this guy? I don't even know, mate.
Don't even know him. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone even knows
who he is. No one knows who he is really. He's not really played that much, so all we can say
played 0 minutes.
Yeah,
he hasn't been on the bench at all. He's done literally nothing.
So I guess it's just an immediate sell then for me. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like he's not part of the squad. So sorry, Malang Sarr, it didn't work out, but goodbye.
Goodbye. Next player is Enzo, who was paid. We bought last January, the January last season, for a big sum of money on deadline day with an hour left of the transfer window. For me, obviously, when you got big price tag in your head, you don't really want to think about the price tag. You want to think about how I can be the best player at this big football club. And for me, Enzo hasn't been the player that his price tag has valued him at, quote unquote. I do like Enzo. I think he has more to offer compared to what he's been offering, but he has a big contract at his football club, so he has time technically, if they don't sell him, which it will be very hard to sell him, to turn it around. So hopefully Enzo can turn it around. I would keep him. What about you, quickly, with Enzo?
I would say Enzo I would say he is a very good player. I do disagree with you to a bit there. He's just showed so much qualities as a sort of midfielder. He is sort of sometimes he sits back, sometimes he sits more forward, sometimes he sits more centrally in the midfield. But he has that desire to create through these long balls over the top, whether it's these long passes on the ground, whether it's him trying to shoot, or whether it's him trying to attack. He has shown some raw ability. Because we bought him last January, and that's when I thought he showed his raw ability, and he wasn't ideal. But this season, I think he's been, I'd say, a lot better. He just, is just so wanting to be here as well. He does, want to be at Chelsea as well, and he does show that with some of the performances. Some of the performance though as well, I can agree, they aren't ideal, but that's, I feel like, because of the setup or something else. I feel like as a player himself, and now he's starting to score goals and get assists, and scored an absolute wonder free kick against Aston Villa. Just absolutely incredible, and he's just scoring multiple times. So I feel like, and that's what's important in that sort of midfield area, because he does make those challenges as well to stop it from going, getting to the defenders and then eventually going back into the net. But yeah, Enzo, keep him for the next 5-6 years, because he is just an incredible player and he does start.
My point on Enzo quickly, because I want to move on to the next player, which is Chukwu. I say Enzo's, I wrote it down here. Enzo's decent, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's lived up to the expectation either the board gave him or the fans because of the price tag. I know it's deadline day and you have no choice, and we sold Jorginho because apparently that was the right deal to do. But I don't think he's even lived up to what I thought of Jorginho even. So that's why I'm stuck with him. I don't think he's a bad footballer, though. That's the thing with Enzo. I actually think he's a good footballer. He just hasn't lived up to what I expect and what the fan base have put a standard on his head. You anything to say about that quickly before we move on?
I would say, he's still very young. He's still got loads of potential. He has won a World Cup at his age as well. So he's definitely got a lot to prove, and he can definitely, in a couple more, years or something, even next season, he can definitely become a lot better. And because he does have a lot of inexperience around him, he has been robbed from some sort of assists and that sort of thing. But yeah, he's definitely got the creativity and the desire to be at this club. So yeah, big up Enzo Fernandez.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion, of course. Leslie Ugachukwu, who had a few run of games during the mid part of this season, towards like November, December, January, but hasn't really found a consistent run of games within the team. So what would you do? Obviously, Enzo I'd keep, but what would you do with Ugachukwu?
With Leslie, I mean, he is very young as well. I think he's 19, 20 years old. So I would say, he is very young. And when he has been on the pitch, has been a bit underwhelming. We do look a lot more shaky in the midfield when he is there. And, he really, he tries, but it just doesn't really work for him, if that makes sense. There's sometimes there are a good couple of passes here and there, but, for the club that we are, we do need a good midfield. And I'd probably say on him, he is injured as well. So now you've got to take availability into issues. So you've got to make sure that he gets back as soon as possible. But I would say we probably should either sell or loan him, because he's just not really putting any much performances or anything like that. I think a good loan spell at either a championship club or a low Premier League club or something like that could do very well for him. So then we can bring him back and he become as good as he can.
Yeah, Ugachukwu hasn't played enough. No consistency within his games in any of the games he's played, even towards the start of the season or the mid. I would sell him or loan him to Championship / a lower team in Europe, like a lower La Liga, lower Ligue 1, lower Serie A, lower Bundesliga team. So that's bottom half. Carney Chukwuemeka, another player that's been injured a lot, and I believe he's still injured. What would you do with Carney, who was bought from Aston Villa at a very young age when he was in the academy there?
Yeah, so with Carney Chukwuemeka, he's sort of like a sort of attacking sort of midfielder. So he needs to have that sort of attacking threat for defenders and the keeper sort of thing. So, and he has shown glimpses of being very good, but obviously, again, I know we're bloody injury FC, so he has been injured for most part of this season as well. So I just feel like he does need the time. He definitely does need the time. But yeah, so Carney Chukwuemeka, I think he should probably give it a couple more years, and we'll see where we are in a couple more years.
Fairs. Next player is my favourite, I'd say so. Conor Gallagher. A bit of a weird season for Conor. Obviously, GNA standard wise hasn't lived up to the expectation that this club has. even to Mason Mount's crap expectation of last season or the season before. No, the season before he was actually decent. Last season, he hasn't even lived up to Mason Mount. Technically, he should be in the bin, but he has a very weird upturn in form recently from was it the Palace game or was it the one before that? Where he it was the Villa game. The Villa game in the cup replay, he scored the first goal for Chelsea, and I just thought maybe he can kick on and actually have a good rest of the season. And apart from the cup final, I'd probably say every game since he's actually either scored or done something well in the game. And even scored the winner against Leeds literally in the last minute the other day, or 2 days ago. So Conor Gallagher, I don't know. I'd probably keep him, but for squad depth at most. Like he's literally the perfect bench player for this club. But obviously, he's very controversial. A lot of people get rid of him. Then there's a lot of people that love him and think he's proper Chelsea, bleeds blue, and we should keep him. So where do you sit on that side of the fence?
Okay, so Conor Gallagher, aka Conor Galladog, or the Rottweiler,
The
sometimes
Rottweiler.
known as, because he does just run around aimlessly, cluelessly. Last season, he did that loads. He was literally just running to nowhere and basically didn't do that much. Had a very underwhelming season last season. I mean, he was surrounded by not that greater players at the time as
True.
well. But he's still, this season runs around like some sort of Rottweiler. He's just got the energy, of that sort of thing. So, which is good in a player because, it means he presses very well for players, and it does mean he retrieves the ball sometimes. Sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he gets past him. He does commit a lot of fouls, I've realized as well, which, is annoying when you accumulate yellow cards and get suspended, which isn't ideal. And he does give away a few times. He does mainly go as well for these sort of back passes. He likes to keep it safe sometimes. When sometimes we do, need to progress and sort of attack, he sort of does that sort of sideways pass or back pass, and I feel like that slows the play down. But yeah, Conor Gallagher, he's improving now, and I would say he should be a squad player next season, and we should keep him.
Respectable opinion. Now another player that's been controversial for his performances this season. Massive price tag from Brighton. For me, any deal towards Brighton worth over 100 mil, no matter who the player is scandalous because Brighton are a mid-table club at best. So, Clown Lake, wherever you are, you definitely have something dodgy going on with Brighton because who on earth pays over 100 million for a player that Brighton bought for 6 million from South America? That will never ever make sense to me. I'll never understand that. Something dodgy within Clown Lake and Brighton, so I'll never understand that. Caicedo, some good games, some crap games. Very hit and miss, which you shouldn't be for the hype that fans gave you, which obviously not your fault, but it's fans' fault. But Caicedo, what do you say about Moises Caicedo, considering he was technically very pivotal in that Brighton team that qualified for Europe? What do you say?
Yeah, so Caicedo, he has had performances this season where they've been a bit poor against, lower league of the Premier League table opposition. For example, like Everton or Nottingham Forest or, Brentford. So I just feel like sometimes his performance can be a bit, I feel like sometimes it can be a bit not just a bit slow and not make those tackles. Sometimes he loses the ball when we concede a goal from that sort of thing because he's under a lot of pressure from two or three players that are trying to attack. And I feel like he is very young though, so he will make those mistakes. Obviously he did have that record signing fee, which does make people criticise him a lot more compared to other midfielders we've got in the squad, which does put a lot more pressure on him. But sometimes when he does have a good game, it is a decent game. He does probably need to put the ball in the back of the net because he doesn't really do that at all. I don't think he has scored for us yet. So, I feel like he does need a bit more G and A as well. That's why people criticise him. But he does sit more deeper out of, Enzo and Gallagher as well. So he has got that defensive responsibility. That makes sense. Okay, so yeah, Caicedo, he is a very good midfielder player, but I do think he needs a few more. I feel like he can I think he should be starting every game for us now. But we'll see what other options that can come in the summer, and we will see.
Okay, let's move on quick and sharply with the next few players. We've also got Kasadi, who had a failed loan spell down at Leicester in the Championship. He was about to win the league in a few weeks. Clearly wasn't in favour with the Leicester manager. So don't know if that means anything about him and his work rate or his ability, but clearly there's something going on weird with that one. And then obviously Lavia, who is a massive signing, who beat Liverpool to the signing, but hasn't
Yeah,
played at all, or played a few games maximum.
yeah. I mean, Lavia, he's been injured for most of the season. He's literally played for about 30 minutes this season, so I can't really say too much. But when he is back and running, we do need to make sure that we assess him and see how well he does, and whether he deserves the place in the squad, or whether we cut our losses and we say if he gets injured another couple more times.
Yeah, we've got to utilise him in the best way and bed him back into the squad in the best possible format. Leo Castle-Dean, or Dine, I've only seen him play a few minutes on the end of one of the games I was at the other day, but I don't know an awful lot about him. I don't know if he's any good. We can get through this one quickly. What do you think about Leo?
Castledine, I can't really say too much. He's not really played too much, so yeah, I think we keep him, or maybe loan him. Potentially, because
Okay,
some loans coming back. But yeah, so nothing really much to say.
a player who's been stuck in hot water for a long time, who hasn't lived up to the salary they're earning of £330,000 a week, is still in hot water because of the performance he's dropping every single week. Fans love him like Marmite, or they hate him. So, what do you think about Raheem the Dream? Raheem the Dream.
Mate. Or Raheem Sterling, also known as Brad Sterling as well, or Raheem the Dream. I'd say hasn't really lived up to that expectation at Chelsea. He's just sometimes can get very frustrating to watch as a player because he is our left winger predominantly for most games, and I just feel like sometimes he can. I don't know what it is. I just feel like against low blocks he struggles a lot with defenders. When he comes up with one or two defenders, I feel like he definitely struggles. And there's sometimes where he does miss absolute sitters. I think it was the Wolves game where he had players all around him. It was like a 4-on-1 against the keeper. He just passed it down the middle to the keeper, which obviously frustrated a lot of fans. And he was on a big salary as well, so he does need to, he needs to really make sure his performance are improving and not decreasing. Which I feel like which they have been recently. He does get you the only thing is, I would say a positive about him is the fact he is experienced, which means you do need some experience in there, and also there is sometimes when Raheem Sterling decides to be him. Sometimes, like his City days and stuff, he can be very good, especially when he comes up against City for some reason. I don't know why. Always bags a goal pretty much. Especially this season, he has been. That's a different Raheem Sterling. But yeah, so definitely frustrates a lot of people, which isn't ideal. So yeah, I feel like maybe we should sell him in this summer or maybe next summer because I feel like we can get better winger options there. And I feel like he's just not, he feels like he's comfortable in that salary and he's not going to get shoved out. But I feel like we should sell him.
What would I do? Because I didn't say probably sell him. He's just not. When you're earning that amount of money and you're
Yeah.
not caring and trying enough, I mean, for me,
Yeah,
no
bro.
future anytime for you because you're just not living up to what we pay you for, or the club pays you for. Mikhailo Mudryk, bought probably for a PR stunt from Ukraine. That's all I see that deal as. Another player like Sterling, obviously inexperienced, unlike Sterling, but had a massive price tag on his head as well, but hasn't really had a consistent run of games like this team. And I haven't seen enough from him to warrant him staying. So for me, I would bin him off this summer, or at least loan him to a slightly lower standard club. What would you do with Mudryk?
So Mikhailo Mudryk, aka Misha, some people call him.
Yep.
He has been a player that is obviously very, 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 very inexperienced. He's very, very, very young. And this season his sort of performances um, haven't been too great. There's times where he does struggle as well against some sort of low block team. Um, and he can't really, and his shooting isn't really ideal. I mean, like we got him last season, and he really couldn't, find his, boots really because he was just shooting anywhere. He was shooting straight at the keeper, shooting anywhere but the goal. This season, I would say he has improved from last season, which really isn't that much. But he is scoring, sometimes. But yeah, people can find him frustrating as well, which isn't ideal. But he has got the pace as well, which is good, and he's got some good dribbling skills. But I feel like he needs to sort of gain his confidence a lot, which I feel like he loses when he gets benched. For Raheem Sterling for most of the time. So I feel like he does need to sort of be given another few run of games. Maybe let Sterling drop to the bench when he doesn't perform for a few games, and let Mudryk play. But I'd say sort of long term for Mudryk, I'd probably give him another season. If he plays terrible next season and he's not dropping goals and GNA and creating chances, then I feel like we should sell him.
Fair enough. Nonny, another hot and cold hit and miss, smaller fee sum deal that we did a couple seasons back. Not overly impressed, not convinced that we should even keep him. Seen a few good, like really good performances where he's literally outdoing defenders. But apart from that, not overly impressive on that eye or stat wise. I don't know what to do with Money. In fact, I'm stuck with him. He's a very difficult player to deal with.
He is. So he plays, right wing for us. And I feel like there's times where he does show, as you say, times where he's, dominating the pitch down that right hand side, making it difficult for the defenders. Scores a couple of good goals. He's definitely got a shooting boot when he does shoot. It does end up in the net, I'd say most of the time. But there's also the odd occasions where it doesn't, and it's a bit frustrating. And and sometimes where he just sort of stands there debating what to do with sort of thing. And sometimes he'll play a progressive pass again, like sometimes like Gallagher. And when you've got two players like that playing at once, it's makes the game a bit lethargic sometimes and a bit boring. But yeah, sometimes he tries to create these sort of runs down the pitch, which is very refreshing to see. But yeah, I would probably say with Noni, I think depending on if we get someone good in the summer, maybe we should loan him because he
Well,
is a great talent.
let me just correct what I said. I'm very torn between keeping and selling him, but I do think there is a player in him. We just haven't unlocked him. The thing I rate about Noni is his directness and ability to drive at defenders, which basically none of our other wingers do, and his sheer desire to try and score and make something happen off or starting the game, off the bench or starting the game, obviously. Nicholas Jackson, number 15, obviously got that hat trick at Night Heart Lane, or whatever you call it. Toilet Bowl
AKA
Arena.
the Toilet Bowl Arena.
Toilet Bowl Arena.
I don't care about upsetting any
I mean, the
Spurs
guy is pure
Spurs
shameless.
fans. Hold that.
First of all, he sued when he scored that third goal against Spurs. Like he literally did the sue, and then he's kissing kissing Enzo's shirt when he took it off when he scored the free kick against Villa. I mean, the guy he's got loser mentality in him, and he's not been good enough to be doing pathetic things like suing. You've scored. I just don't get why he has all this confidence when he hasn't done enough to be the number 9 for Chelsea. Anyways, what do you think?
Okay, so Nicholas Jackson joined us for 30 million fee, which is decent for a striker, but for that sort of age, maybe we overpaid a bit. You can't. I mean, from his performances, yeah, he had an okay preseason. Looked okay, looked decent. He was playing really well. With I would say the times where he played well during that preseason was when he played with Nkunku. That's when he was scoring because Nkunku was creating opportunities. Jackson was find in the bottom corner when he does. But this, during sort of this season, I would say he has been somewhat of a frustrating player because we do create a lot of chances and he does miss a hell of a lot of these chances, which, when he's in front of the goal, you're like, just bloody find that corner. or just hit the back of the net. And he doesn't, or which is annoying. And sometimes he just, I would say, miss Jackson. I would say, because he does miss. Um, so which isn't ideal. But then there's times, for example, that Spurs game. But I feel like that was just an anomaly sort of thing. They went down to like 9 men. They pretty much were playing Eric Dyer at centre back on a high line. So if Jackson couldn't score a hat trick, like honestly, that would have been the most shocking thing ever. He could have had more that game. But in terms of his other games throughout the season, yeah, just frustrating. But he's since he's come back from AFCON, he's slowly and surely sort of building up. He's getting assists, he's getting a goal here and there. But as a striker, compared to the other strikers in the league, he does need to improve a lot more. But he is young as well. But I do think we get a better striker in the summer, and Nicholas Jackson drops to us, sort of second striker.
Okay. Then you got the fourth from last player that player's contracted this club, Christopher Nkunku, signed at Chelsea at age 24 and only started playing properly at age 26 at Chelsea, which has been very underwhelming considering the price we paid and the standard he shows in the Bundesliga. So, what do you think about Nkunku? And do you think he has a future until he returns at Chelsea?
So yeah, Christopher Nkunku, he signed in last season, but obviously he stayed till the end of the season, and he got injured during preseason, like a stupid, silly preseason thing, because it's just annoying for when he's out throughout the actual real season. But he has come back a couple of times, and he does show glimpses where he does just put the ball in the back of the net. Yes, there may be consolation goals. For example, the Wolves game or the Liverpool game. He can find the back of the net, but I feel like he hasn't really celebrated a goal yet where we've been winning in the league and or in the lead. So I feel like he does get injured, but I'm hoping that he can be a decent player. He was doing very, 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 very well at RB Leipzig. He was scoring loads and loads and loads and loads of goals, and hopefully we do see that balloon celebration soon enough at the bridge. That's what we all want to see. It's what the fans want to see. It's what we all want to see. And Nkunku, come on, mate.
Fix up. Anyways, right. Cole Palmer, who was signed.
Cold Palmer, may I add. Absolutely bloody cold Palmer.
He was announced, I think, like an hour before one of the games at Stamford Bridge, but I can't remember which game it was, for 40 million.
I mean, by far, one of, I'd probably say, the best player of this season for Chelsea. He has just been absolutely dominating the pitch every game he's on. He just manages to find the net. He has that skill, he has that ability, his on the ball attributes, his off the ball attributes. He's got everything. He's got that sort of confidence in himself as well. To come to a big club like Chelsea and just absolutely just terrorize defenders and midfields, just gets the ball back, wins the ball, does skills here and there, or not even there, quite a lot actually. And I'd say 9 times out of 10 they do sort of pull off. And just the skill and the ability he has is just absolutely incredible. He's got the goals, he's got the assists. He's just been absolute, I'd say, dynamite for this team. He's by far our best player, and by God, we should sign him up for 8 more years.
Thanks. I just checked. We signed him on the day of the eve of the game against Wimbledon. I was at the game, and people were like going into the stadium thinking, why have we just spanked 40 million on a player that hasn't really proved they're even worth 20 million? And I remember people thinking, like, what a chaotic, weird signing. And then that game, we only beat Wimbledon 2-1, and we were 1-0 down as well, which was very embarrassing. And we were just hoping he would be the player to fix up this season and make it into a good season, because beating Wimbledon 2-1 is pure embarrassment, to be honest. So we were hoping he'd be the player to like kick us on and push on the season, but it hasn't been like that, and underwhelming from the team. But from his point of view, 9 out of 10 this season, pretty decent, and definitely worth more than 40 million quid. David Washington, I'd obviously keep him. David Washington.
One last point about Cole Palmer. He is just, we need to give City more money for that, honestly. I feel like we've robbed them with that pretty much. I mean, he's just been everything, everywhere. He's versatile as well. He just plays in so many different positions. He plays as the false nine, played at the 10, played as right wing. I just feel like every time he just has that such skill and ability in him. And that's just what makes him like the most probably loved player right now by us as Chelsea fans, and the most, technical ability football player. And just absolutely just is demolishing this league. And I would probably say he's got to be up there with one of the signings of the summer transfer window last year.
Facts.
How much
All
would you
right.
agree?
Swiftly moving on. David Washington and Diogo Moreira. I don't know anything about any of these two players. I don't even know if I've seen much of any of them too. What do you think about what do you do with these two? I assume they're both Brazilian with them names. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think?
So yeah, with Washington, he hasn't really played that much. He's a striker. Um, he is very young, um, and he's still very raw. But I feel like we should definitely put him on loan, because if we're going to get a striker in the summer, so I feel like he should be going somewhere else. For a loan, or a couple of seasons, send him on loan, build up his confidence, and then if he starts balling out, it probably saves us 150 million from our club spending it, which is what our owners would probably like to do. And then with Diogo Moreira, I think he played in pre-season, but that's as much as I can really say. Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I feel like you can't, we've rated the team now. I feel like there's one person we haven't rated yet, which I feel like is important when you're rating the team. It's got to be the manager,
Oh, the
Mauricio
manager.
Pochettino.
Oh, the manager.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pochettino, right? I would
Well,
say,
you can tell my opinions with what I say here.
yeah.
But
From my
obviously, it's that is a very controversial topic. The
It is,
manager.
yeah. I mean, with my opinion, with me, you can see that just Cole Palmer is just brilliance right there. But yeah, with Pochettino, I'm not gonna lie, he's been a manager that has frustrated us Chelsea fans time and time again. He's pissed us off. He frustrates us. For goodness sake, he can't really get a grip of many things at the moment. Um, he has his tactics and his the way he sets up, and people don't really like that, the way he does it. For me, I'm not the biggest fan of him at all. I personally think he should be gone, in my opinion, because he's his tactics have been quite poor. For example, playing a high line with Thiago Silva against Liverpool. Like, why would you even think about that, mate? Like, obviously, we're going to get caught out against a striker like Darwin Núñez or something like that. And it's just the different lineups and playing players in wrong positions, and his substitutions have been quite poor in some games. And it's just very frustrating to see that from a manager. And he was saying at the start of the season, before he was even starting, we're Chelsea, we should be winning every game. And then constantly with excuses after games, like, we've got no Nkunku, we've got injuries, we play twice a week. He's just I feel like let us down, I would say, and which isn't ideal. Yes, we've been, I'd say, better than last season, but I feel like, as we are Chelsea, we do need a manager that wants to take us to sort of the top, and, really make us a great team, like a really great team that's challenging for Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues and for the cup competitions every season. And I feel like under him, because he just makes excuses, and with his, I'd say, regressive lineups and that sort of tactics sort of things, I feel like we're not going to get too far with him. So yeah, I would say um, from the board's point of view, they're probably going to keep him till the end of the season, which obviously I'd rather he'd be gone last week. But I guess you can sort of call the season a bit of a write-off again because of this manager, because of his mistakes and all that sort of stuff, which isn't ideal at all for us Chelsea fans when we just want to win games and be just challenging for these Premier League titles and for Champions Leagues and for the cup competitions. And yeah, this manager will never do that. So yeah, Poch out.
Fairs, okay. Obviously, on the Newcastle game, we're going to do a watch along for that. So we will give you a live and honest review of what we genuinely think about Poch in a more depth than we've given tonight. I don't believe I will go into a further extent about what I believe in on Monday the 11th when we play Newcastle, but I don't believe it is Potter's fault. I think he's made loads of mistakes. He's cost us games and points, but I don't believe he is the sole issue with Chelsea being 11th. He's part of the problem, but he's not the full problem. Obviously, we'll
Yeah,
speak about this down the line in about a week or two. But I don't think he's lived up to expectation. One, and he's been a massive, massive issue with the fan base because all he's done is split everyone up. Everyone's now divided. No one likes him, then another one likes him, and then everyone thinks he's Spursy, and then other people think he can turn it around and turn the corner, whatever. He's just not ideal for what this club is about and what its morals are, what it stands on, and what it should be doing going forward. So if you come to an overall conclusion just for this video, Pochettino hasn't been good enough. So technically, he should have been sacked, but he hasn't. But that is where we'll go into more of this in the next live stream against Newcastle on the 11th of March at 8 o'clock UK time. Right,
yeah.
let's close this off with the.
Wait, before we go, why don't we get a prediction now for where do you think Chelsea will finish in the Premier League
This season,
this season?
I think Chelsea will finish best scenario 6th, worst scenario 9th or 10th. But if Chelsea can somehow muster up a good run of form between now and April slash start of May, maybe 6th. But if they
Yeah,
can't, probably 9th or 10th at best.
yeah, I
What do you
agree.
do?
I think that Chelsea will get possibly ninth or eighth. I don't think we can really climb higher because I feel like maybe Newcastle could pick up a bit of form. Maybe Wolves can continue their form or Brighton. Um,
Facts.
you know, so maybe that sort of maybe ninth, eighth, seventh sort of thing, which basically means we need to win the FA Cup so we can try and get European football. But yeah, so that's my prediction. I'd say thank you all for watching and
Yep.
listening, and I'd say up the Chelsea because we are the biggest club in London.
Yep. I've got one more thing to write. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. Make sure you guys like and
Yeah,
subscribe the YouTube channel. Obviously, the content's now returning to its old days and being more consistent than it's been in the last 4 years. We're looking to be bringing back content here and there, not on a consistent basis because we have lives to live, but we want to be bringing back content in an irregular format. So
yeah,
thank you all guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. I hope you
yeah.
enjoyed the video. We're just giving our honest
Up
analysis
the
of
fucking Chelsea.
obviously, come on, Shans, every day of the week, twice on Sunday. Um, we're just giving an honest analysis of what we think of each player plus the manager this season, and that's just how we think and what we believe in, what we stand for. At the end of the day, you're gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. So thank you, anyways, guys.
Yeah.
We'll see
Cheers.
you. We'll see you on the next one on Newcastle on the 11th. Up the.
Up the Chelsea.
There you go.